Alright guys, welcome back to Formula 1 news. Big news today coming out of the Red Bull camp with Sergio Perez suggesting that he has requested Red Bull design their car slightly more in the favour of his driving style rather than the way they went last season, arguably favouring Verstappen. Will Red Bull actually agree to this decision? Will that mean Perez can be more competitive? Or will Perez be speaking into a brick wall? Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. First of all, confirmation here that the car weight limit for this season will stay at 798 kilograms. There was the belief before that it was going to drop to 796. That's now no longer a thing. Some teams have opposed this for some reason. It's kind of unclear exactly why, but a bit frustrating because a lot of teams and drivers say they want the car weights to come down, and then when the plan was to bring them down for the first time in many a year at this point, the teams actually disagree and say, you know what, no, we want to keep it in 798. So kind of unfortunate because it was meant to address the, of course, every single year the cars get heavier and heavier. They're not so good to watch as they used to be. Let's say, okay, they might race better now than they did in 2021 and slightly before, but they're still not quite as good to watch, especially through the slower corners being so heavy. When they start the Grand Prix with 100 kilos of fuel, they're almost a ton in weight, which is obviously, almost double what they used to be, let's say, 20 or so years ago. But yes, even the small weight decrease we were going to get this season is now being reversed for whatever reason, despite the fact that most teams will probably be on this limit going forwards. The other storyline that people have noticed is that Mission Winnow, definitely a brand that's caused quite some controversy since it's been on Scuderia Ferrari, just because we know that Marlboro and other tobacco brands are no longer allowed in Formula 1, but it's noticed that Mission Winnow, who no one really knows what they even do, but the group, I think PMI, whatever that exactly stands for, that own Mission Winnow, also own Marlboro. So there's some kind of weird controversies going on with Mission Winnow, and apparently they're now gone from the brands, which a lot of people will say is about time. Also, a big update if you guys have been following for a couple of months now on the drama between Ferrari and Red Bull. I mean, yeah, not the only drama of the season. I'm sure there'll be more to come, but it's certainly to do with the engines. Now, you guys might remember that a couple of months ago, Ferrari refused to attend a meeting on the engine kind of regulations for 2026 because they were frustrated that Red Bull were, well, effectively saying that they were a brand new engine manufacturer. So the story is here that going into 2026, we've got Audi, right, that are coming through. Of course, we've got Mercedes, Alpine, and all this, right, that already, Renault, for example, right, and Ferrari, that make their own engines already. But new entrants, such as Audi, will be given extra time, right? Brand new to Formula 1, not made engines before. They'll be given, extra room to design and to test and other things. Maybe extra leeway in terms of materials they can use, stuff like this, that new suppliers will get some degree of advantage so they can actually be competitive, ideally from their first season and beyond, when they're not really got the experience of making engines in Formula 1 to the same extent as the incumbents. Now, Red Bull was saying, kind of cleverly, you could argue, that look, we're Red Bull Powertrains. We're a brand new engine manufacturer, never before seen in Formula 1, so, we should be entitled to the same benefits that Audi are getting. Now, obviously, Ferrari said, hang on, we clearly disagree with this because Red Bull are already making engines. They're just kind of Honda for now, but in 2026, it's going to be fully Red Bull Powertrains. Then it's not going to be Honda associated anymore, and therefore Red Bull say we're brand new, despite the fact that they've probably done this for quite some years and have a good idea how to build these engines, and whatever they have in 2026 might be based a fair bit on their relationship with Honda going up to 2025. So Ferrari said, we're not even going to attend this meeting until Formula 1 sort this out. And with the latest developments that Ford is kind of just going to be like this commercial partner and not do much from the engine side, it's now kind of been agreed, and Red Bull have backed down a bit and said, all right, whatever, we'll agree to it, lads. And Ferrari say, okay, cool, yeah, fair enough, that's what you should have done all along. So they are now all agreed, and those objections have been unblocked. But yeah, nonetheless, Red Bull are trying to pull a fast one that has now been reversed. They won't get any additional advantage going into 2026, fair bit down the line. But Ferrari being on the fence about something, not exactly a new phenomenon. Now, the big story I wanted to mention for you guys is Perez discussing next year's car. Every year going into the year, we hear from the drivers, this year I'm going to achieve this. I think Perez just said yesterday that he intends to be in the fight for the win at every single Grand Prix weekend. This year, of course, wasn't always the case. Started out the year very strong. There was a period between Baku and Monaco where Perez outqualified, or not outqualified, but outdid Verstappen in something like 7 or 8 sessions in a row across Monaco, and then going into Baku before then getting beaten by, obviously, Verstappen in the race kind of handily there. And obviously, as the season progressed and the car arguably, well, went a little bit more in Verstappen's favour, he got completely completely blown away in the second half of the season. Now, Perez has suggested to the team, hey guys, let's try and make this car that it actually might suit me just a little bit more. We believe that the way the cars are going for this upcoming year might well suit a driver that likes a bit more oversteer, because Verstappen hates his car to understeer. If he turns the wheel, he wants the car to turn into the corner. If the back end is therefore loose, he can catch it. That's how he likes to drive the car. Some drivers disagree. Some drivers prefer an oversteery setup. Some drivers prefer an understeery setup. Verstappen, prefers a very sharp front end on his car. Perez is kind of in a different direction there. So as the season developed, Red Bull arguably tried to make their car understeer as little as possible. That helped Verstappen hurt Perez. We saw the outcome of that. That's a simplification, but it's generally known as that is kind of a phenomenon. Now, for the upcoming year, we believe that Pirelli rubber is going to be better for drivers that like less understeer, let's say, might even therefore be better for Verstappen and Leclerc and other drivers that prefer that style. So Perez is like, look guys, I'm going to get bodied here if you guys make this car for Verstappen again, so please throw me a bone a little bit. Now, I think Helmut Marko and Horner have actually denied that what I've just mentioned is even a problem, and I said, no, it's nothing to do with that, it's just Verstappen elevating his performance and stuff. Perez obviously disagrees, and he says, yeah, look, we want to work with the team here to prevent a similar dip in form. There are things we're going to work on. We believe the car is going to be better. I've been pushing the team in a certain direction, and we believe we are heading in that direction, but we'll see. Once we get the car, it's all about adapting ourselves to the car and trying to maximize it. But basically was asked the question as to the development of the car maybe resulted in Perez's dip in performance compared to Verstappen, and therefore he's saying, look, we're working on this certain direction. That, or at least he's implied to the team and said, hey, look guys, maybe try and help me a little bit by making the car have this characteristics and not these characteristics. And the team's like, oh yeah, sure, Checo, we got you, no problem at all. I'll certainly write that down and take it to the team to put that into the car. Going on to say, learning from the mistakes we did, I think sometimes we took the wrong direction with the setup, and that's very important for us to understand. I think we figured out towards the end of the season what we were doing with the car. That's crucial for us, and we are now heading in the right direction, which either means in general with setup or whatever, or that means, with actual car design and setup specifically for him to allow him to be more competitive going forward. And I'm never expecting Perez to beat Verstappen over the course of a season, but Red Bull might be, it might benefit Red Bull to actually not just 100%, and I don't know if they do this fully, and I'm sure they'll deny it, but it does feel like they design their car for Verstappen, right? It's understandable that they do this, but it does often just leave Perez out to dry. Maybe you can say, look, Perez just get better, right? Which maybe is fair enough, or maybe they just get a better driver in, which is another argument that they might do at some point, or a driver that has a similar style to Verstappen is also an argument there as well. But, when you do favour one driver so heavily, you do run the risk of the other driver getting, demotivated in part, but also not being in position to help his teammate quite as readily as he might do otherwise. And that certainly will be the case this year if Verstappen's where he was last time, Ferrari and Mercedes are better, and Perez is still the same gap off. Like, Verstappen's often going to be out on his own, struggling to deal with the Ferraris and the Mercedes, with Perez, in 6th position or something. So he's hoping the team will move in this direction that's more suited to his driving style. Whether they will do that, right? Because Perez can say this all he wants. The reality is at Red Bull, and for good reason, that they're going to favour Verstappen. They know more than likely that Ferrari, maybe they get their act together this year in terms of operations and strategy. Maybe Mercedes have a better car. They are going to get pushed this year. So what's it better for Red Bull to do? Is it better to 100% favour Verstappen, make him have a rocket ship as much as he can and get all the points? Or is it better to come to more of a middle ground where Perez can be more competitive, take points more often off the opposition, and therefore, better for the constructors, maybe you could argue? So difficult decision they have to make, but we know what Red Bull generally do here, and Perez saying to the team, hey guys, maybe do X, Y, and Z to help the team. They'll write that down on one side of the paper, and on the other side of the piece of paper, they'll write down what Verstappen has to say, and more than likely, that's the arguments that will get through to the decision making, and whether Perez is therefore disposable if he underperforms, that's the question down the line. So what do you guys think? Will Perez, actually, will this be realized in reality, or will Perez discover when he, turns up in Bahrain that actually it's not quite where he'd like it to be? Horner has also just clarified very recently that he reckons it's going to be tough for anyone to beat Max Verstappen, certainly Sergio Perez. He reckons he's got the capability to do it, but, actually achieving it is another thing entirely. And of course, Riccardo is the 3rd driver, not technically reserve, I believe. They don't really tend to use that terminology, but there has been some rumours that maybe, depending on how things go in Melbourne and elsewhere, whether Riccardo could at some point step back into the Red Bull garage as a potential replacement for Perez if he doesn't have a great season as as really he didn't last year either. Quick note as well on Red Bull is that Christian Horner, given their new partnership with Ford, maybe you can understand why, is proposing a 4th US Grand Prix of the season. So we've already got Texas, already got Miami, now we've got Las Vegas. He wants a New York Grand Prix as well. So yeah, we'll see about that one. But yeah, Red Bull on the offensive, no doubt about it. And speaking of the US of A, just before we close out the video, I wanted to mention this. I wasn't aware that Logan Sargent was from Florida, but I thought a pretty hilarious caption here from Williams. Florida man ready for first F1 season. If you guys are unfamiliar with the Florida man meme, it's basically, I don't exactly know what it is about men from Florida or just anyone from Florida, whether it's like an access to like a criminal records type thing or what exactly it is, but you'll see all these headlines of Florida man doing some insanely wacky, stupid thing and either getting arrested for it or something bad happens as a result, and it's kind of a running meme that Florida man is, you know, someone who's just going to do something crazy, and there's already some good, you know, potential content from this. You know, Florida man calls this 3-pile car up in Miami, and I thought it was pretty funny that Williams are already leaning into it. But very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.